My name is Max. I am one of the founders of Makes You Local, and I have the honor of helping you here today. I've been working across the Nordic markets for 15 years, and here at Makes You Local, we work with more than 15 web shops where we do customer service translations every day in Norway. We also do a lot of advice on how you enter the market, and I think the sum of all that experience is what I would like to share with you today. So it's going to be a really good day. One thing actually you can, sorry, now I did this wrong. I tried to share a quick poll with you just to have an idea about where we are today. So if you have time, please reply on that one. Otherwise, I'll get started. I'll just share my presentation. And you can, I think you can already see the answers yourself, so that's great. Cool. Good. Just trying to make this go better. Okay, so we're going to talk about Norway, and I have split up in two sections. The first section will be a little bit more about how you launch in a new market in general, what things are important to look into there. That counts for Norway, but for all other countries you would like to go into. And then we will have a more deep dive into Norway and what is important to know about Norway to actually succeed in that market. So that will be the plan. And just first briefly about Makes You Local. We are working across Europe and we've been doing that for 14 years. We work with a lot of different web shops, different sizes. This is some of the bigger clients we have, but when you start in a new country, you are the same size, all of you. So we also have small clients that opening up in a new country, and they have the exact same needs in a new market as a more experienced and bigger web shop. So I think we have good knowledge to share for everybody here. We're covering most of Europe with our own internal employees, and we also have a wide range of clients across these markets. And what is it then we do for clients? And I think that's very simple. We have two things we bring to the table. First of all, we have native e-commerce specialists, people that are grown and born and raised in these countries, that are familiar with all the native or the local e-commerce habits in that country, the local culture. And these are the people that really can make a difference for your web shop when you go into a new market. Because we have a lot of technology, it makes us really fast. But if we don't add that local knowledge in our localization, in our customer service, in our translations, in our marketing, we will just run fast, but maybe not in the right direction. So that's one thing we bring to the table, and you can use them in many different ways. The other thing is technology. We have a really strong technology stack that you can use when you go into a new country, because you need tools for translations, you need tools for customer service, and you also need more knowledge about the market. I'll get back to the last one in a second. So instead of buying systems that can be difficult to select and buy, hiring people to manage them, you can tap into our solutions and just pay as you go. And I will just spend 1 minute more on the tagging analysis thing, because I think it's a really nice tool when you go international with your web shop. In your home market, you have a really good feeling of what is good and what is bad on your web shop, which processes you are proud of and which things during the checkout or in the after sales that maybe could be improved, but you're not right there now. When you take a new country like Norway, you will not have the same gut feeling about how your web shop is performing, how the customer journey feels for a Norwegian. This is what this tool can do. It will live tag all conversations, Trustpilot reviews, all the dialogue with your end consumers, and you can call it voice of customer. This is what they, the bumps they meet on the customer journey. And you can actually build advanced dashboards that show you live, is there payment problems? Do I have a discount code not working? How many complaints did I have from which product groups? All these things can be brought to you in very intuitive and nice dashboards. And this is valuable insights, not only for your customer service team, they already know it, but for your marketing team, for your product team, for the warehouse, when we do packaging mistakes, which products is it that we don't pack quite good enough, or in the marketing, what kind of marketing are we doing that gets a pushback from the customers? All these things are really valuable knowledge when you are not in the market yourself, having that gut feeling about your performance. So a tool that you will have as a customer at us, but you can also get it as a single product from us if you want to add it to your own Zendesk solution or whatever you're working with in your customer service. Good. That was about Makes You Local. Then we'll talk about how you select the right market for your internationalization project. And I think there's a lot of different approaches to this. Some of us would go with the biggest market, and for many of those attending here, it will typically be Germany. Others would go with a market similar to the one they come from themselves, or you could go with one closest to where you are. All good reasons, but I think the most important thing to take into account is actually brand recognition. Is your brand known in the market already? Because at least you can say, if you go for increase in revenue on a short term, if you go for increase in profit on a short term, I would definitely go with brand recognition first. It is the most expensive thing to build, and it takes time. So if you are selling products, if you are a brand that are already known in the market, it could be you could be a fashion brand that has resellers in Norway. Then launching your own webshop will tap into a brand position in the market. There will be searches online for your brand, and you could tap into those searches and generate traffic on your own website. Or if you're selling other brands as a retailer and you already know the brand is known in the market, then there again will be search for the brand, and you can tap into that search and get them to your website. That makes it a lot easier than building it from scratch. But you could also say, well, we are well known in Sweden and Denmark and Norway, and now we want to add Germany as a new region. We are unknown, so we are in for a more longer journey, but then it's still relevant. So if you look at a market from that perspective, besides the brand knowledge, then I would look at the relevance of the product. It could be, selling ice hockey equipment. If you are a Swedish company selling ice hockey equipment, I would probably choose Norway and Finland above Denmark. The sport is more popular. There's probably a lot more potential customers. So that kind of logic you need to add to this as well. Then I think warehouse is important here. Will it require a new warehouse to succeed in this market? The reason for this is that having an extra warehouse is first of all a big investment, but it's also draining your cash flow having two stocks up and running. So I would be careful with that. And some markets will just require it. I was selling a product in a market where there is an expectation of fast delivery. It could be in the UK, and you are based in Poland. It can be really difficult to live up to that expectation from Poland selling directly to the UK. You might need a warehouse, and then you need to calculate that extra costs into your investment, and that will of course add risk if you're not succeeding in the market later on. And then I would look at competition, and this is where it gets more close to you, of course. Look at the countries you consider. Look at who is winning the consumers today, who is taking the online consumers today, and how good are they at what they do. I will dive a little bit into the market entry report where we actually compare the competitors in the market later, but you really need to understand that if I line up the 3, 4, 5 best competitors in this country, can I then do better than them on some of the things? I might not be the best, or I might not win on all parameters, but I need to be able to see that there are areas where I'm doing better than them. There is some unique selling points that I can put forward that they can compete with. That's the next thing. And then finally, I will do some math, because then you figure out maybe that Norway could be good, maybe Finland could be good. Then I will do some math here. And what this is about is, and if you look at the example on the right side, put in Your average order value, you can use this for your home market also, of course. What are the shipping fees you manage to charge from your customers in average? Because you probably have days with free shipping and you have customers who pay full shipping costs. Add that in the average. You have some VAT you need to deduct. You have some import taxes maybe. Maybe you pay another fee to your own supplier that are lower or higher than what you charge your customers. Cost of goods, payment fees, warehouse costs, return handling. Return handling is a little bit important here because the way I get to 15 kroner in the example is that a return in this case costs about 150 kroner, and I have a return rate of 10%, which means that in average, every order needs to carry a cost of 10% of the 150, so that's 15 kroner. If you look at a market like Germany, you might have a return rate of 40 or 50%. So let's say it was 50%, this number should have been 75 kroner, half of the 150 instead. So that's a quite important number. Customer service can be a little bit more tricky, but it's the same principle. If you outsource it, you'll probably have an idea about your costs in average per order. So then it's just adding that number. That will give you an income per order. And that number you will then recalculate for Norway, for Sweden, for Germany, the markets you look at, and you will get a new number. Norway in particular will probably have a higher average basket size than the other countries. It will also have some import tax or some import fees. It might also have some higher shipping costs than shipping to the country next to you. So the differences you'll see. And what's really important for you is that the number at the bottom here, the 124 kroner, that is what you have left for your marketing and for your profit. So that's the way I would suggest that you look at this when you also look at the market potential. And if your home market might have the highest income per order and you think that you could actually also take market shares there, then maybe you should invest more in that market instead of going to a new one. There's a link to the sheet in the presentation you will have after as well. All right. It's really important to get started the right way. And I have at least 4 things. Yes, the webinar is, sorry, I got a question here. The webinar is recorded, and yeah, I will just encourage the rest of you to ask questions. Also here, I'll try to answer them during the presentation and at least at the end if I don't do it during the presentation. So feel free to ask questions. The first important steps. I think personally, I would always start by trying to understand the competition. Really diving into what are their unique selling points? What are they putting forward? How are they building expectations with the consumers on delivery time, products, prices, and stuff like that. So you really have that gut feeling that I can actually be a part of this. I can win some of these customers. Because all the rest, before you start investing in localization and translation, you need to know that you have a good chance here. So that's the first thing. The next thing is that I would plan for a friction-free customer journey. With that, I just mean that you don't want to be the web shop that is going to teach the Norwegians to pay in a new way, or you don't want them to read your website in English because you didn't have time to translate it. Because all these things will reduce your conversion rate, and a reduced conversion rate will increase your cost per acquisition of new customers, your cost per order, which makes your business less profitable. And actually, creating a friction-free customer journey is getting so much cheaper due to technology, due to our platforms are well prepared for new markets, that it's not worth it. It's much better to have this really good customer journey so your conversion rate will be high and you'll get full value out of your marketing investment. So do it properly. Don't take too many shortcuts in your localization and preparation of the webshop. Then it's of course important again before you get started to understand the marketing challenge based on your brand awareness, your position, your products, your unique selling points. What do you think it will take to get the traffic on your website? We use the same tools across most of Europe, so there's not a lot of differences here. the key here is that you understand what will it take for me to get traffic on the website. What should I put aside for Google shopping, for social media? Do I need local influencers to build my brand? Try to do a thorough plan for that, so you know what to invest, and you can set the right expectations for yourself and your team when you go into a new country. And then finally, the worst one here. Yeah, plan for 6 months without any orders. That can seem a little harsh, but the point here is, if you start with being too optimistic in your forecasting, it will be really tough, because it is difficult. You will make mistakes. You will have to start over on different areas. You might need to find a new vendor or new products. You might need to change processes. And doing that is just much more tough if you are behind on the budgets all the time. On the other hand, setting a low expectation and actually giving you time to learn the market, understand the differences, and be happy with every customer you get. That's actually what I want you to put. I want to put you in that situation, that every customer you get is actually a good thing. You're happy. You can use that to move forward and not being behind all the time. So I think it's really important to create a plan where you, the first 6 months, can work undisturbed by your CFO or whoever will have a say on your budget. So you can work and do that in the quality that you plan to, and not have to decrease the quality over the 6 months because you're behind on budget, because you will probably not succeed at the end then. It takes time. So get yourself that time before you get started. Good. Let's get to Norway. We have this fact sheet, and we will share that with you after the presentation. There's a few things about Norway I think I would like to highlight. First of all, the market size. It's in euros, about 20% of Germany. So in that perspective, it's not as big a market. But I think there's a couple of things that makes it really interesting. First of all, 60 to 70% of the Norwegians actually buy from foreign web shops. In Germany, it's only half of them. So that changes also the market size calculation a little bit, because maybe it's a big market, but if they don't want to buy from a foreign web shop, you don't really benefit from it. So that's important. They are open to new shops. They're open to foreign web shops. They also have the highest online spending per capita in Europe. This is also really important, because when you go into a new market and are trying to win new customers, there's two things that helps your profitability. First thing is, of course, that when you pay for a customer in your marketing, you like them to spend a lot over in the lifetime when they are customers with you. But you also would like the average basket size to be high. Think about the math we did before. A high basket size is really valuable, because your handling costs, your return costs, your shipping costs, all these things will not really change if there is a product more in the basket. So it goes down straight to your bottom line. So it's really important with these high spenders in Norway. So that makes it also really attractive. And then the last thing I would like to mention here is that Vipps, that's the mobile payment in Norway, is really taking off. In web shops where you offer it, you can sometimes see 60, 70, 80% of the consumers use Vipps for payment. So it's going to be something that you would like to offer in Norway. And I think I remember now I have one thing more. It's also a good thing. Norwegians are actually a little bit more patient than the rest of us. Delivery in Norway can easily be 3 to 5 days, which is nice when you sell from abroad. Of course, are you trying to sell me a shirt for tomorrow? I need it tomorrow. But in most cases, we are a little bit more ahead. So there is actually often time to deliver stuff in Norway, also from your existing warehouse setup. There are more details in this fact sheet, and then of course we have our Norwegian e-commerce specialist that also can answer additional questions about that. Cool. The questions they ask, when we meet a web shop for the first time, when we consider buying from a new web shop, there is some questions that goes that happens in our head while we go through the customer journey. And I would like to take you through those because I think it's important to keep them in mind when you design and prepare your webshop for a new market. First of all, there is some product market fit. Do you have a price and a quality that is okay? This comes with your market entry report or your own competitor overview. You need to figure out if your price and the products you offer are relevant and the quality and the price is good. It also, from a consumer perspective, happens already maybe on the Google Shopping ads you see when you go online, or it happens on the product page as you have here, where you'll check the price, look at the pictures. Could this be a jacket for my kid? The next thing that happens also or here on the product page is, do I trust this company enough to buy from them? If I haven't bought from Leewood before, one of our clients, I would still consider here, okay, is this a legit brand? Do I trust them? And maybe I do. I put it in the basket and move on to the checkout flow, and then I would look at delivery. It's quite important for us. So can I see that they can deliver in time for me, and take my consideration around that. So that's important communication. Often it's also put on the product page, of course, as a best practice, I think now, where it will say we deliver within X days from your order time. And then the next or final thing we consider is, of course, just before we click on the complete order button, do I trust them enough so that they actually will handle a return in decent time? Is it a competitive return process? And if I have a complaint, will they handle that in a fair way? Will I get my money fast so I can choose another product? That kind of things is also coming to our mind when we're doing the final approval of the order. So having these questions in mind are really important when you go through the foreign customer journey, and try to do that with a Norwegian mindset, or use a Norwegian specialist for that. Just a little bit tips on how you answer these questions the best way. I think the most important thing is to have a transparent approach. I took just this example, 2 guys in Denmark selling bike wheels. And I think, well, you can't make this shit up, they're really good guys. They're transparent. They talk about bikes and wheels and why they are great. This is a real website. This is people committed to actually deliver a good product. So the About You page on your website, that's a good place to show that you are actually really into this market, and you can align that with local market expectations. It's also about being clear about, return processes. If you have USPs in your top line saying we deliver within X days, or you have free returns in 100 days, or whatever it could be, then have a mouse over or the possibility of clicking on them and read exactly what it means. So it's not something that stands out without any detailed information. Norway, you need to offer the VIPS payment, I think, Afterpay, typical Klarna, but also credit card payment. Then you're good in Norway. So that's also where you don't want to question them. Logistics, Bring, the Norwegian Post or PostNord can both cover the full market. There is a lot of other smaller players who can cover the big cities. That's also if you want to combine some of these, but this is a good starting point for Norway. And then I think never forget this return thing. More than half of the people that buy online from a new shop will go in and check the return policy. So if you're selling to Norway and you ask your customers to go down to the post house and ship a package to you in Sweden or Germany, that will probably cost them 30-40 euros. They would not be happy with that. So you need a better return setup. I have actually a suggestion later also for that. They are okay with paying for returns as long as this is fair. I think we have a recommendation saying it cannot be above 69 Norwegian kroner, but I actually think the most important thing to look at here again is your competition. The 3-4 biggest competitors, what are their return policy, and do they charge for it? Because if they all do it for free, then it's difficult for you to take maybe 69 kroner for that. I got a question here. I actually would like to address that right away. The first one is to have insights into which customer review site Norwegians prefer to use, of course. Yes. I think there is two things to consider. Lipscore is a Norwegian company. They're actually doing really well in Norway and would be a good a partner for that. But also Trustpilot is a company you can probably use in many countries, so there could be arguments for that as well. I think that's the two that would come to mind first. The other question is, how does Norwegian customers look at English spoken support versus Norwegian spoken support, comparing it maybe to Germany? And I think, again, what is the alternative? Because if you sell a product where there is other companies selling the same product, I would definitely, as a Dane, as a Norwegian, as a Swede, prefer speaking my own language. Of course, there is a majority in that country that understands English, but it's a very different thing to communicate on a phone or in writing in English. So I think you can get away with a lot if you have a really strong offer, low price, unique product. You can get away with a lot less if you sell a product that you can buy from others. So I will also get back to that later, but I would say always go with a native solution up front. Maybe it's just an automated chatbot in Norwegian, and then if you need further conversation, it can be in English. So it's a better standpoint, in my opinion, than starting with an English approach from beginning. Also, again, because your biggest investment in a new market will be marketing, and everything that is not localized will reduce your conversion rate and give you less return on investment on your marketing investments. I've got one last question, then I'll move forward. It's Charlotte asking if Norwegians will be happy with a written support. Well, I think you could ask yourself the same question. I think Danes, Swedes, Germans, we are all similar in that way. We could, for some questions, it would be fine. But the real problem here is if I'm sitting at 8 in the evening, consider buying a new jacket costing me 300 euros, and I have one question. Then you as a web shop would probably prefer that I could write in a live chat, get a reply right away saying, yes, you can return after you have unwrapped it, or you can, it has that zipper or whatever it is you ask for, and then they'll place the order instead of them sending an email. You'll reply the next day in English, and then you hope that they will return to your site, or they didn't already go to another website and bought another jacket. So written support can do a lot, but it will not cover these pre-order questions just before you put things in the basket where a phone or live chat is the right solution, or a chatbot. Good. Let's move forward. Where the previous slides were a lot about the basic stuff, then it's also important to think about, how do I actually sell to these Norwegians? How do I meet them the best way? And this guy, everybody wants him as a customer. That's ChatGPT's first try on a happy Norwegian. Again, localized with native help. Again, we have strong translation tools, but you need the native help to, at least on your newsletters, on your social media, on your important text on the web shop, you need to talk to them in their culture and within their expectations. So a native help that can give you a language that compelling voice that actually makes them buy is actually making a big difference. If we all use the same translation tools, we all write the same things. So adding that uniqueness, a little twist about where you come from compared to the Norwegian market, why you're into this, why you want to do this. Try to get that into your text, so it's not just a standard text you translate across 5 languages. Be available, and as I said before, native support. It comes in many sizes, so you can have a cheap automated native support. That's, in my opinion, a lot better. You meet them in their language. That's giving them a trust in you from the beginning. And then you can grade it up depending on your ambitions and your budgets, to having a live support from 9 in the morning to 9 in the evening, stuff like that. But be available, transparent, and native. I think that's actually quite important. one thing adding to that is that today everybody can go abroad with automated solutions, translations, and stuff like that. So if you're not available as a person in this dialogue, you might just be one of those who could easily translate the web shop, then you could actually serve the customers in that country. You want to be the one who's actually committed to help these customers have this customer-centric approach. Then I think there is a benefit from the customer support that is really valuable when you go abroad, because this is where you get all the small problems on the table. What is that your Norwegian customers are struggling with, and how do I use that to fine-tune my Norwegian website? If they don't like your return process or the description of your return process, if there's too many customer service questions about it, well, then it's really nice knowledge that you can use to go in and change it on your website. Or if they ask for a specific product in your assortment that is important in Norway and you're not offering it, well, again, that will customer service learn you. If you don't have live customer service, you don't have a dialogue with them, you'll probably not get these details out of it. So it's actually a more important byproduct of the customer service that you will benefit a lot from. And then I think, as I maybe said before, try to be patient, have a setup where you can work with the market over some time and learn the market and teach the Norwegians about your products and your approach. It will take time to build a business in a new market and to build a brand. Good. Outside the EU, what is it actually it means? One of the biggest questions in all the time we worked here at Make Sure Local has been handling the customs when you go into Norway. And that's of course important. And what is it all about? Well, if you don't take care of the custom handling, if you're selling from EU to Norway, well, then the Norwegian customer will handle the import. They will have the trouble. They will have to go down, pick up the package, pay import taxes, and pay VAT before they can have the product. So they will have all the hassle, and that's what you want to take away if you want to be a real competitor and take customers from the local Norwegian web shops. And you can do this in 3 different ways. You can use the VOEC setup. It was created 4 or 5 years ago, and the whole idea was that Norwegian customers were not getting access to a lot of products, mainly from marketplaces, because the marketplace sellers didn't want to handle the customs in Norway. So they created a setup where you could actually buy these products if they were below 255 euros per product without any import tax handling, so they could go directly to you. The requirement is that the website is not allowed to be localized. So it will be a Swedish or German or Danish site selling in Norway on this setup. Then you might say that some companies are getting away with a localized site, and that's correct. They are not controlling it every day, but it is with a risk of that if you go with the VOC. Then there is what they call a NUF. It is basically a branch of your company in your home country. You set up, this is simple for the customers, that will for them equal to buy from a Norwegian web shop. No difference for them. For you, it's also quite simple. You only have to pay the Norwegian VAT, and you'll get a VAT number, so you can also buy your domain and all the other things you need. So that's a good setup. I'll get back to that. The next level is the local entity that is setting up a company in Norway. It adds a few things for the customer. It's the same as the NUF, but you will be paying taxes in Norway. You'll do an annual report, so you'll have a real company with all the extra administration and cost that comes with that. So that's why we will talk about the NUF a little bit more, because that's the good starting point. You can easily upgrade from a NUF to a local entity, and the NUF is the right way to start to being a Norwegian web shop. Simple for customers, simple for you. So the cost of setting it up will be typical 1,000, 1,200 euros. Then you'll have the branch, you'll have a VAT registration, a VAT number, and it includes the fee to the authorities and everything. And then you are up and running, and then you can start selling in Norway. That's basically the cost. Then you have to do a VAT registration 6 times a year. It requires a digital ID in Norway and some other stuff. It will typically cost 400 or 500 euros per VAT registration 6 times a year. So this is the cost of selling into Norway. If you set these things up, you're actually good to go. One additional thing is, of course, the handling at the border in Norway. So there is some requirements to the way you pack your products and the papers that goes with the products. It's a little bit different from distributor to distributor. So you need to talk to them about how they want you to set up these things. But you need to be able to bulk ship them. That means you take maybe 10 orders in one pallet, and you create papers on top of that showing what's in this order. So that's the way it's done. So logistics, talk with your carrier, but the cost of setting the VAT number and the registration is done like this. I got a question here. Can you clarify a bit about the 400-500 euros per VAT registration? Yeah. If you do well, you will have to do the calculations yourself. It is like it's in your home market. How much am I selling? How much am I buying in that market? Maybe you have some logistics carriers you pay out of your Norwegian branch, and that will give you a net VAT to pay in Norway, like you do in your home country. That calculation you need to do yourself. You submit that to a partner. We have one we work with. It's not something we do ourselves, and they will then do the registration. They will log into your account at the Norwegian authorities, do the registration for you, and of course have the ongoing dialogue, sending you the papers you need to fill out and stuff like that, and be your person in the dialogue with the Norwegian customers, the Norwegian authorities. So that's how it's done. We use several. I will include it in what we send after. There's a question about what partner we are using. There are several we can use. So I'll put something in the email we'll send after the presentation with this, so you can figure that out. We also have B2B customers, B2B web shops here online. So what is different for them? And you might also be both B2B and B2C. That means you have maybe direct to consumer e-commerce and you have some resellers in that market. I still think it makes sense to register for VAT in Norway, because that put you on the same page for your customers, your resellers. They can compare your buying process with the other brands, but also they don't have to handle the import stuff themselves. So that's a good way of doing it in both cases. And you can't do B2B from your home market to your resellers if you at the same time have a branch that are registered for VAT. Then you have to go with the branch actually. Then the last thing that's a complication when you go outside the EU, that is actually the returns, because first of all, it's critical for the buying experience. Again, as I said, we are checking up on this before we place an order in a new web shop. And when you get a return in Norway, if you want to have it back to your home country, maybe in Finland, then you will have the Norwegian customer to go down to the post office, fill out a form, shipping it to another country. And that's very complicated, and it takes time, and they don't want to do it. The good thing is they will reduce your returns dramatically, but they will probably not come back and buy from you again. So you need to have a local return option. We do this for a lot of companies in Norway. We have a warehouse up there. So we can have the returns come in, we can open them, we can check them, we can notify the customer service team that we got the products, they look good, you can refund them. Or if it's a complaint, we can verify it compared to the rules you've set up. And then we bulk ship the products back every week or every month, whatever fits into your plan. So that's one way of doing it. The other thing is, of course, the logistic companies. They can also help with this. And I think the reason for us doing it a lot for companies starting up is that they are really good if you have thousands of returns. They are not so good if you have very few, because they are simply too slow. It takes a long time, and the handling cost will probably be too high. But local carriers are also an option for that. I have a question from Thomas here saying, do you suggest establish a remote warehouse solution? So you have your own warehouse where you have remote stock in Norwegian. It depends a lot on your product range. If you only sell 5 different products, it would probably be a good idea. Then you can reduce some shipping costs and you'll be closer to the market with your products, delivery time, stuff like that. So then it will make sense. But if you have a range of 1,000 products or 500 products, you come into the situation that I need to use a lot of cash flow to have 2 warehouses. So I need to be quite confident that I can sell a lot in that market. So I would say, to begin with, go with your local warehouse, because delivery into Norway is fast and the Norwegians' expectations of delivery are not that high. So I would often start with my home market and then later on, if it makes sense, create a local warehouse. Then you'd have a much better feeling of the potential and the return on investment in setting up a new warehouse. Good. Brand awareness. That's the last section, so you'll soon have time to get fresh coffee. I think this is very important to remember. Going into a new market, you ask loyal customers to leave their favorite brand and buy from an unknown brand. It's the marketing challenge we have here, and that's always difficult. And in these markets, there are web shops that have been selling products that maybe cover the same need as your product for 20 years. So they are experienced. So what you need to do is, again, look at the competitors, the market entry report I talked about. We benchmark competitors on 15, 20 parameters and really try to make it easy for you to see where to fit in. That's something we can do for you. You need to keep cultural differences in mind. Norwegians are different in some perspectives, but I think before we go into these differences, I think it's really important to remember that we are all reading the same news, we are all seeing the same movies, we are doing a lot of things in the same way in Europe. So it's not as different as it maybe were 20 years ago. But there's a couple of things that are important about the Norwegians. When you look at them compared to at least the rest of Scandinavia, they actually put quality a little bit above price. I think when I ask in my organization with 15 people here, or 15 nationalities, everybody would say, well, in Poland or in Germany or in the Netherlands or in Norway, we are very focused on price. And I would say, yeah, of course, nobody want to pay too much for something. But what's particularly interesting with the Norwegians is actually that if you show them 2 different products and say, this is a little bit better and more expensive, this is a little bit less good quality, get it cheaper, then the Norwegians will take the expensive one. It's my experience. The Danes will probably take the cheap one sometimes. So there is differences here. Another thing is that it is a wealthy country. So there is also a little bit higher willingness to pay for premium products, to pay for brand value, to pay for products from companies that actually put an effort into sustainability and other things. So that could maybe be some unique selling points that are worth taking into account when you go into Norway. Good. Yeah. This about the natural, the culture and the difference between markets. That's also why we have these native e-commerce specialists I mentioned in the beginning, and also for Norway. I think this is where you really can benefit from them, is taking these people into the discussion about how you should fine-tune your communication and your social media approach. And that goes for Norway, it goes for all the other countries. So please consider that. And that was also the last slide from me. I hope you learned something, and I hope that you get started in Norway. It's a good market. I would say, if everything else being equal, it would be one of my top markets if I was a web shop today, for many good reasons. Reach out to me, connect on LinkedIn. Again, we have many different services, but at the end of the day, the native experts and some tech that you actually can benefit from right away. Thank you. Have a really nice day, and hopefully see you around. Bye.